Australian had a disappointing Formula 3000 race yesterday while overtaking Riccardo Moricchio. Stewards judged him to have caused a coming together. Now, Juan was given a drive-through penalty and finished 11th and last. That's bad luck because he's been going so well. Lots of driver news as discussed last race. Jenson Button has signed with BAR from 2003. Now, what was the surprise? Well, the deal is for 4 years, meaning Frank Williams has released Button from his contract with the Williams team. Joe? Joe?
Well, it's not entirely surprising. Frank's got a couple of really good young guys coming through at the moment as test drivers. He's obviously very happy with Montoya. He's very happy with Schumacher. But he's got a couple of really good young blokes testing at the moment, let me tell you.
All right, following Mika Häkkinen's retirement during the week, McLaren have announced that they will retain David Coulthard and Kimi Räikkönen and test driver Alex Wurz for next season. Now, Sauber will take up Nick Heidfield's option for next year, but someone who may be without a drive sooner rather than later is Alex Young. I mean, he has been very disappointing. The Malaysian has now failed to qualify 3 times this season, and despite the large amount of sponsorship he brings, he may be dispensed of before the end of the season.
Yeah, I'd find that strange. There's only 6 races to go. In all honesty, unless there was other guy coming in with even more money, rather than upset the continuity of the team, I'd just let him see the year out.
Both arrows are on the grid tonight, and it's hoped that this means a deal is close to being struck with a new investor. Exactly what the deal is and who will be running the team is yet to be revealed. Now, there's your first look at that circuit, the high shots there.
Yeah, I mean, just to act on that arrows, the big rumour there is Craig Pollock could be the guy that's going to end up by running arrows, but that remains to be seen. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, they've changed it quite considerably. Instead of going through turn 1, which is the right-hand, look at that hairpin, that's going to be interesting under brakes. I think it's going to be quite hard on brakes. They tell me it's a medium wear circuit, it's a medium downforce circuit, which means the cars will be running considerably more downforce than what they used to. Therefore, the corner leading on to the start-finish line and turn 1 will actually be a lot quicker simply because the cars are running more downforce than what they did last year. There are cars up the front that we haven't seen previously. The Jordans are going extremely well. The BARs are up there. So it means that some of the guys have got a better handle on this on the circuit and its surface than other people.
All right, massive crowd attendance, of course. Let's take you over now to James Allen and Martin Brundle.
Ralf Schumacher highly motivated this weekend. Got a bit of a hurry up from team boss Frank Williams last week in France. He said Ralf seems to be in a dip. He's just not pressing the right buttons at the moment. He said that to the press, so it's quite pointed. And Ralf Schumacher has responded so far this weekend in the most strident terms. Can he take the fight this afternoon to his brother? There's Willy Weber in the background, the only man in that shot not wearing a Ferrari team uniform. But he has enough money now, having managed the 2 Schumacher brothers for the last few years, to pretty much buy the Ferrari team. Jacques Villeneuve there, coming up to take his place on the grid.
I noticed they're all using the same technique now when they leave the dummy grid, James. They park their cars back a couple of metres, switch off the traction control and lay a line of rubber in the hope that and then park back on top of it when they come back to this grid formation, ready for the start of the race, to give them an extra bit of traction away from the line.
There is Weber, the last car on the grid, with Mika Salo just in front of him. 120,000 expectant people packed into this Hockenheim circuit. Any time now, go! Both Schumachers away brilliantly, and look at Räikkönen making a move as well, and Rubens Barrichello coming down the inside, but it's Barrichello holding position. Michael Schumacher takes the lead. It looks like everyone's safely through turn 1. There's a very wide runoff area. 1 or 2 people have used it, but clearly Michael Schumacher has got the drop, and we've got an arrows on the... It's Frentzen, we believe. Frentzen is stuck on the grid.
They'll have to consider the safety car because it's just a mere 1 minute and 19 seconds before these cars will be round to the start-finish line again. And there is a hole in the pit wall where they may be able to recover that car. Michael Schumacher with a comfortable lead. Kimi Räikkönen was a winner at the start. He passed Montoya, and Coulthard also getting a good start. So the 2 McLarens very well away, but Michael Schumacher best of all. And look, a clear lead for him then. Räikkönen stays in 4th at this time.
Michael Schumacher leading then, Ralf Schumacher 2nd, Barrichello 3rd, 4th is Räikkönen, 5th, Montoya. 6th, Jarno Trulli. Good start for him. 7th, David Coulthard up from 9th place on the grid. Panis has been a loser, and so has Fisichella. Panis dropping down to 8th, and Fisichella down to 9th place on the grid. And that's Pedro de la Rosa, who's the 2nd retirement already, and we haven't even had a lap completed yet of this German Grand Prix.
19 runners, and it seems Frenzen's car is still parked up. He's not able to get it running at this time. He can restart the race. They can find a way to start the motor, but Michael Schumacher 1.6 seconds in the lead at the end of the first lap, and quite quickly I think Barrichello will be putting Ralf Schumacher, the 2nd place man, under a lot of pressure. Montoya struggling a bit back there in 5th. Trulli and Coulthard spread out for 6th and 7th. Then there's a gaggle starting with Fisichella.
Yes, and good news for Jenson Button fans. Your man has gone up from 13th on the grid to 10th. He's got Olivier Panis right in front of him. And just look at Rubens Barrichello now, monstering all over the back of Ralf Schumacher. We heard Ross Brawn before just saying that a number of different strategic possibilities were available to the teams here at Hockenheim, the revised circuit. Everyone's shooting in the dark a little bit as Rubens Barrichello just has a little bit of a nibble, letting Ralf know that he's there. And one of the theories is that teams will send their two cars out on different strategies just to find out which is the quickest. Lots of different possibilities here this afternoon, but clearly the Ferrari, the faster car at the moment than the BMW Williams, as evidenced by Michael Schumacher pulling away at the front and Rubens Barrichello in 3rd place, trying very hard to pass Ralf Schumacher in the Williams 2nd.
Yes, and as ever, the Bridgestones seem to come on more quickly at the beginning of a Grand Prix. Look, the lead now up to 2.5 seconds already then at the end of lap 2. Michael Schumacher leads from Ralf Schumacher. Barrichello just 6/10 behind. Raikkonen and Montoya now in close company as Barrichello really tucked up behind 2nd place man Ralf Schumacher. This is a replay of the start. I think that orange arrows you'll see there just briefly moves away and then stalls Frentzen, who seems to be, and Webber really not getting away either at the back, but finally does move. And wondering if there's a jump start. They've circled a jump start potentially, and no sign that they're under investigation. I think that was Jarno Trulli, the TV director, wondering whether there was a jump start. 2 cars going wide. It's a Renault and a Jaguar going wide at turn 1, but all living for another day.
That's the margin, though, that Michael Schumacher has pulled out at the front. Ralf Schumacher just taking a couple of tenths out of him on that last sector, and it's very much cat and mouse at the front. And Rubens Barrichello very much wanting by. Raikkonen still 4th, Montoya still 5th, Trulli still 6th.
And Frenzen's just coasted through the pits. They've started him up at the far end of the pit lane. I'm surprised the mechanics are allowed to do that out of the pit zone. But Frentzen has joined the race, albeit 2 3/4 laps down.
There he is, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, dumped here 12 months ago by the Jordan team. Very unceremoniously missed the German Grand Prix last year. He's back here this year with Arrows after all their troubles of the last 2 Grand Prix, where they failed to qualify in France due to a dispute with their principal investor Morgan Grenfell, and the British Grand Prix, where they also had some problems. A lot of rumours circulating around that team at the moment, that the team is for sale, been sold. And we will find out in the next few weeks, surely. And Michael Schumacher now closing in on the back of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. I'm sure that Frentzen is expecting that any time now.
Yes, I just asked Tom Walkinshaw on the line, have you sold the team? Is it true, the rumours that the team has been sold? And he said, no, it has not. I said, why are they saying that? He said, don't ask me, I'm not the one saying the team has been sold. So yet more controversy there at Arrows, but clearly a sale is on the cards. Barrichello then, falling back a little bit now, isn't he, from 2nd place man Ralf Schumacher?
Yes, the man hotly tipped to have bought the Arrows, or be about to buy the Arrows team, incidentally, is Craig Pollock, who manages Jacques Villeneuve. He has some money coming from America, apparently, and he's anxious to get back into Formula One management, having lost control of the British-American racing team just before last Christmas. On lap 5, though, of this 67-lap German Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher 3.4 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher, and one of the effects of this change to the circuit here, one of the reasons they did it, as Schumacher just lines up to go to lap Heinz-Harald Frentzen, one of the reasons they did it was to give the spectators here a chance to see the cars more often, because on this very long lap that they used to have at Hockenheim, the spectators in the grandstands would only see the cars 45 times, 45 lap race. Now they get to see them 67 times. And everybody seems to feel, from the spectator point of view, that it's a huge, huge boost that they've given to the track.
Yes, the best fun was for the spectators out in the forest before catching the pistons and valves as your engine blew up down there, because it was such an engine breaker here. But now it's much more of a traditional racetrack, and here we go again with a new start. And if Trulli did jump the start, it was not by much, that's for sure. It certainly helped him, didn't it, enormously.
Yep, Trulli went up from 8th to 6th as we ride on board again at the start with Juan Montoya. You can see Rubens Barrichello cutting across. Watch for Kimi Räikkönen, there he goes, you see. As Barrichello hit the brakes, that gave a chance to Räikkönen to take the advantage. And once again, the young Finnish driver really battling his way through. Montoya's not lily-livered, but he had to get out of the throttle there, and Räikkönen the beneficiary. He now has almost just over a second lead over Montoya.
So Jenson Button's had a problem down the field a bit. Maybe he's gone off or whatever. Slow lap. He's down to 12th position at this time. You're back on board with Montoya. He's currently running 5th, but he's already 8.8 seconds at the end of lap 5 behind race leader Michael Schumacher. It is really, well, it's too easy for Michael at the moment, isn't it?
Long way to go yet, though. 61 laps still remaining here at Hockenheim. A variety of different strategies likely to be at play here this afternoon. So an awful lot can still happen. The other big loser at the start, incidentally, Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR, went from 11th down to 15th. He's now clawing his way back up. He's 13th at the moment.
He's really having to tread carefully, Montoya. You saw the back end of the car so easily sliding out there in the new complex section. Montoya without a lot of rear grip, no doubt about that. Certainly not, as you said at the beginning of the programme, James, not had a stellar weekend, and went off in his final attempt at qualifying, went off again this morning in the warm-up on the same lap, and seems not to be able to hook that car up as he slides up the inside of a lapped Frentzen. Frentzen now 3 laps down, 2 when his car wouldn't start, and another as they've swept past him.
Yes, interestingly, Gerhard Berger, who's the director of BMW, sporting director, was saying last night that, generally speaking, they find that when they come to a racetrack, one of the two drivers tends to like it more than the others. As we look at a replay of the Renault and the BAR going wheel to wheel, this is where we expected a lot of daring moves and overtaking moves. That is Villeneuve and Button. And
who will be teammates next year.
They will indeed, and has allowed the Jordan of Sato to get on board, alongside as well. That's the battle for 12th place at the moment. Villeneuve ahead of Sato and Button. Just a little bit of a nudge there for Jenson. That's a welcome card, is it, to the new team? I
think so, isn't it? I think that's Jacques and the spinner behind them, which clearly must have been Irvine. De La Rosa already out of the race. So yeah, Villeneuve putting a good move there on Jenson Button. Button now down to 14th as Sato slipped past 2.
Yes, as I was saying, Gerhard Berger just mentioning that the drivers tend to like one circuit more than the others, and this seems to always, this weekend, have been a circuit which suited Ralf Schumacher better. He adapted right from first practice on Friday to it, got the car tuned in. Montoya always looked like he was struggling and never really looked in qualifying like he was going to find the form which has seen him to 5 straight pole positions.
Räikkönen then under increased pressure. He made a mistake into the Sachs curve at the end of the previous lap, locked his left front wheel, enabling Montoya to get a much closer look at his rear wing and gearbox. There's a long straight out. Once again, McLaren have not been fast in a straight line. It's an Achilles heel they've had all season, and if Montoya gets anywhere near a decent slipstream, he'll surely have a great chance to pass Räikkönen. But Räikkönen seems to have a new level of confidence, speed and energy since his run at the French Grand Prix, which he could so easily have won just last Sunday. Trulli then, I hope he hasn't, for Coulthard's sake, settled into one of his sort of long-haul afternoons, because he tends to be a great qualifier and just nothing more than a solid racer. There between them, 17 seconds away from race leader.
That's an interesting point you make there. We have seen Jarno Trulli just get into a bit of a groove, and a lot of people accuse him of falling asleep in the middle of races. Not literally, obviously, but just not having his brain engaged particularly. So clearly you're of the view that Renault should have got rid of Trulli and kept Button, are you?
I think I did say that in my newspaper column, yeah, no doubt about that. But it's a contractual situation too. I mean, if Trulli's not out of contract, if he's got to fix one for next year, and Button was out of contract, then I guess it's a pretty easy decision, isn't it? If you're intent on putting Fernando Alonso in your team.
Jarno Trulli having another year at Renault next year with Fernando Alonso alongside him, and Jenson Button, as was announced last Monday, moving to the BAR team. You're looking at Ralf Schumacher, though. At the moment, the top three are lapping in the low 1:18 range, whereas Raikkonen and Montoya are lapping deep into the 1:19s. I wonder, as we look at the pass there by Mika Salo on Jenson Button, that's a pass for 17th place into turn one from the looks of things. A brave move.
Yeah, Button's clearly got a problem. He's just falling down the field, and he's about to be passed by Eddie Irvine too, and that will put him 19th and last. Look, no straight line speed, Jenson Button, whatsoever, so either missing a cog or two in the gearbox or some kind of engine problem. He's just falling quickly back down the field, and you've got to assume with so far to go and such a poor pace, he may as well pit.
Yes, there's clearly something wrong with that Renault. It's been a very difficult weekend for both of the Renault cars, but particularly for Jenson Button, who had a problem yesterday. He pushed the wrong button on his steering wheel, over-revved the engine and blew it to pieces. Lap 10, though, Michael Schumacher leading by almost 5 seconds now from Ralf Schumacher in second place. Barrichello third, Raikkonen fourth, Montoya fifth, and Jarno Trulli still sixth.
This is Montoya and Raikkonen. They've been side by side for the best part of this lap.
Now this is good stuff, Daz. I mean, this is what Formula One's all about, or should be. And I think the new circuit is 2.3 kilometres or thereabouts shorter than the old circuit. And if nothing else, it is really, as I said at the beginning of the show, I think he has designed a circuit that's produced 4 or 5 good overtaking spots. But typical Montoya fashion, he's got the bit between the teeth. He's having a real good go at Raikkonen, and now he's finally got past him. But those 5 or 6 last corners that we looked at, that's what I love to see.
Well, I mean, 2 of the best young chargers in the business.
Absolutely.
Okay, back to the boys.
And I think this is a fight we're going to see for many years to come. Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Pablo Montoya set to be the champions of the future, no doubt about that. And I'm hoping that we'll get that played in, because some super action, super commitment, nobody wanted to yield. But in the end, Raikkonen having to give up on his 4th place.
Yes, it's interesting. Last week in France, there was the moment, wasn't there, where Michael Schumacher had Montoya and Raikkonen either side of him coming out of the hairpin. It was as the great man, if you like, the leader of the pack, the benchmark driver of his era, and the 2 guys most likely to take his crown off him, all together on the same track at the same time, and the 2 young guys having a go at him. It was a wonderful moment in France last week, and I think we're going to see it again quite a bit, as you say.
But this is unusual. Michael Schumacher's lead has now fallen down to just 4 seconds. He lost a second the lap before, another quarter of a second the one just finished. And for some reason, Ralf Schumacher and Barrichello both coming back at him, and all of them lapping 3 seconds a lap faster than the rest of the field. Of course, that involved Montoya and Raikkonen having a scrap through that lap, but what on earth's going on with the different pace through the field is so difficult to explain. And look, Coulthard then, has he got past? Yes, indeed he has. Coulthard has passed Trulli somewhere. So important move for him, and now we're going to see some action as Montoya gets a run up the inside of Raikkonen. Nobody wants to yield. They head to the Sachs curve hairpin, and Raikkonen could so easily have blocked both front wheels and taken the pair of them out. But look at this. I'm not going to give. You'll have to give. I'm not going to. All right, I'll outbrake you around the outside, and just squeezed him in. And really, the older head there of Montoya paying dividends as Eddie Irvine swaps ends for the 2nd time this afternoon.
I wonder if that is for the 2nd time, or whether that's the spin we just caught the end of earlier. Difficult to tell. Actually, no, it probably is for the 2nd time, because that's the pit lane entrance.
Yeah.
So before it was down at the hairpin, wasn't it? Yeah. So yes, Eddie has had his 2nd spin of the afternoon. He's down in 19th place. Great news, though, for David Coulthard. Having got past Jarno Trulli, he's certainly going to be able to up the pace a little bit. And that is a very important move for the McLaren driver. And
sorry, but there's a lot of action going on in the middle of the field we're just not seeing, because Massa has also got in there and passed Fisichella. Massa 9th, Fisichella 10th, Heidfeld 11th. Louise.
To update you, just a word to update you on the situation with Jenson Button. We saw him drop right down the field to 19th place earlier on. He has picked up the pace a bit. He's lapping in the 122s. He had a loss of power, possibly connected to the traction control system, but the team have been punching numbers in the computer in the back of the garage to see if they can get it going again and correct the problem via the 2-way telemetry system. And he does seem to have picked up the pace a bit.
Thank you for that, Louise. And also I notice now Panis has passed Jarno Trulli. So Trulli back down to 8th position and just falling through the field. And is he going to lose another spot to Massa? No, he manages somehow to hold him off. So Massa then, Fisichella has slipped back. So lots of action going on there. I hope we can see a bit more of that anytime soon.
Well, Renault boss Flavio Briatore said last night that he reckons the Renault engine is giving away 70 horsepower to its main rivals at the front of the field, and certainly today it does seem to be struggling a little bit for straight line speed. Trulli, Massa, Fisichella, Heidfeld, all together, that is the battle for 8th place, and it's an absolute humdinger. And now Eddie Irvine has got in front of Jenson Button for 18th place. You can see Button falling back all the time.
Yes, he is. I think Button repassed Irvine when Irvine spun for the second time, but sad to say, we've got two Brits at the back there fighting for not quite last place because Frenson's start line problem, but he's still running around in 20th, but it's for 18th and 19th. But this is a fabulous scrap going on here. Look at that. It's all for position, the whole chain of them, right back to who's on the end of it. McNish is on the end of it in 15th place. So that is from 8th to 15th.
That's great stuff here on lap 15. Alan McNish starting this race the first time this season. He out-qualified his teammate Mika Salo, completely outperformed him all weekend, and there is just a vaguest possibility that McNish might hold on to his drivers. Fisichella takes a look at Massa, who takes a look at Trulli, down the inside into the hairpin, and this is what this section was designed for. We're now on the rail cam. Fantastic view as the camera's travelling at 120 kilometres an hour. Gives you an idea of how fast the cars are going. Fisichella smells blood now. He knows that he can get past Jarno Trulli. Not an awful lot of love lost between these two, because let's not forget it was Trulli that replaced Fisichella in the Renault squad for this season, and Fisichella certainly pretty irked about that. He wants to get by as we look at Ralf Schumacher, who is setting very fast sector times and has just set a new fastest lap. Somehow or other, he's able to find speed in this BMW Williams that teammate Montoya has not been able to find so far, although Montoya does appear to be turning the wick up a little bit as well at the moment. And so we need to keep an eye on that situation while we're enjoying this scrap as well.
Yes, it was a good move from Massa. Luckily, there was enough grip up the inside somehow to turn in. Kept his head on the exit, got the car straight very early on, and got good traction out of the corner. Here he goes, just takes a big lunge. Trulli, with a wise head on him, manages, and Trulli slips down another place then as Fisichella moves through. Trulli back down to 10th place now, and Villeneuve also right in there, looking to be the next one to depose Jarno Trulli.
Fantastic stuff here at Hockenheim. Look at the three abreast, down to the hairpin. Oh, and the last of the late breakers, Takuma Sato, just as Villeneuve was having a think about it. Sato gets Villeneuve. Wonderful stuff here. And this is the battle for 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Sato now up into 12th place. Mark Webber in the Minardi is even on the tail of this lot as well. Just shows you how much Trulli. Look at Webber having a look at Salo. Oh my goodness, and Webber loses a place to Salo. Unbelievable. Yeah,
Webber was trying to have a nibble at McNish, but you wonder if Jarno Trulli's got the same problem as Jenson Button, because he's falling back so quickly now. But look, I'm delighted to tell you the lead is now down to 3.5 seconds. Somehow or other, the Michelins have really come on strong. They're getting ready for a pit stop for one of the two ailing Renaults, but Michael Schumacher has not got it all his own way at the moment. It's Ralf who's the fastest man on the track and dragging Barrichello nicely along with him too, back towards your race leader.
Indeed, just under 5 seconds now separating Michael Schumacher in first place and third place Rubens Barrichello, as into the pits comes the Renault, we believe, of Jarno Trulli. Yes, it is, into the pits. And also going very quickly at the moment is Juan Montoya. He's 14 seconds off the tail of third place man Rubens Barrichello. So Montoya's had a very slow start to this German Grand Prix. He's dropped almost a second a lap in the early stages, but now he's beginning to turn up the wick. Possibly the Michelins are coming into the zone. Certainly the track temperature at 39 degrees now is absolutely the hottest we have had all weekend, and certainly during this race. And we have got a race on our hands at the front as well as in the middle. Ralf Schumacher sets a new fastest lap, now just 3.4 seconds behind his brother.
And look at this action now then, as a replay of truly losing one of his earlier positions. Ted is down in the pits.
Martin, I'm pretty sure we can be certain, in fact, that the leaders are on 2 stops. 3 stops is actually quicker, but only about by 5 seconds. So the 2 stoppers will be first in at about lap 24. But look at both McLarens. They're in the 119s. I think they well could be on 1 stop, Martin.
Well, you better hope so, Ted, because they're painfully slow. They're lapping 2 seconds a lap slower than the similarly tired Williams. And we have to say, in recent races, McLaren have tended to have a better race setup, although they've not had a strong weekend so far. But you might be right, James, but I think they're just having a poor, Ted, but I think they're just having a poor weekend, I'm afraid.
On board with Ralf Schumacher. Let's see if we can see our brother ahead. There he is, that spot in the distance, you see, just at the other end of the pit straight, but not as far ahead as he's been throughout the Grand Prix so far. In fact, just 3.3 seconds, so just a tenth taken out of the lead. But Michael's got traffic now in the shape of the Renault of Jenson Button, and the German Grand Prix beginning to hot up on lap 19. Michael Schumacher leading Ralf Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello is third, 1.4 seconds behind the younger Schumacher brother. Montoya closing the gap in 4th, Raikkonen 5th, and Coulthard now, having got free of Jarno Trulli, is setting about trying to catch up with his young teammate. Lap 21 of the German Grand Prix, and things really coming alive here, certainly insofar as the battle for second place is concerned. Ralf Schumacher, in attempting to get past Jarno Trulli, has been held up, and that has allowed Rubens Barrichello to get oh so close to the back of the BMW Williams. It also has allowed Michael Schumacher, who leads this race after 20 laps, I beg your pardon, to pull away 4.3 seconds now over his younger brother. So traffic causing problems for Ralf Schumacher as Felipe Massa pits in the Sauber. This is reasonably early for a 2-stopper. We're expecting most of the cars 2-stopping to come in around about lap 26. The 1-stopper's coming in around about lap 36, but Massa cleanly away on what was obviously a 2-stopper. So interesting, very interesting that he has had to come in first on the softer Bridgestone tyre. The 2 Ferraris are on the harder Bridgestone tyre, which should be able to last a bit longer. But it's certainly going to cause some interesting developments in this midfield battle, which Massa has been part of.
Yes, and now we're going to see how and why Barrichello got much closer to Ralf Schumacher, to the extent. And look, watch Ralf. He's very, very unhappy, shaking his fist at Jarno Trulli, saying, "What are you doing? You're being lapped. You held me up. I've lost ground." The lead is now 5.3 seconds. Cost him a good 2 seconds. Trulli not really getting out of the way, and of course gave Barrichello a run at him. Maybe just thinking about Massa's stop, sometimes tyre wear is much higher in the early stages of a race. You're all over the show, fighting with other people, track's a little bit green, and often it can calm down during the Grand Prix. So a slightly earlier stop is sometimes a smart move if you're a little bit marginal with your tyres, James.
Well, let's see what it's done for Felipe Massa, because he was 8th when he made that stop, and we're waiting for him to come through. And obviously all his rivals like Fisichella, Panis, Heidfeld, Sato, Villeneuve, Bonaldi will all have got past him. Salo in the Toyota coming into the pits from 14th, and we're still waiting for Massa to come through. So he's lost about 5 places as a result of that pit stop.
And I think Frentzen is going to pit. He's toured in very slowly, so maybe, and look, they're moving the wheels out of the way, so Frentzen, I believe, will drive into the garage and retire.
Well, I said Massa had lost 5 places, make that 9 places. He's gone down to 17th, so whatever the strategy of Sauber was, it's clearly not worked for him yet. He'll have to hope that everybody else he's racing against comes in pretty soon and he can vault back up again. They are so very close, though, between 8th place Fisichella and 15th place Salo. There's something like 4.5, 5 seconds. It's really tight in the midfield as Frentzen retires from the race.
Well, for the second time in many respects, we didn't think he was even going to get going off the line. And Sato running wide, using the extra tarmac. Does he lose a position over it? He's currently 10th. And indeed, he had Villeneuve looking very close at getting past him, didn't he? We can't see it this time, but Ralf Schumacher's on it, James. He's desperately now trying to recover the damage caused by lapping Jarno Trulli as Heidfeld comes in, which confirms Massa's stop was very much scheduled.
Yep, this is lap 23. He'll be stationary for about 8 or 9 seconds. Very good, a bit less than that, I'd say, probably 7.9. So that should fuel him through to about lap 45. He was in 9th place. Again, he'll drop down through the field, and that's his teammate Massa. So in fact, Massa has re-emerged in front of Heidfeld, and these guys have got to hope, they've really got to hope, that the BARs and the Arrows and the Toyotas are going to stop very soon. Otherwise they're going to lose a lot of track position as a result of these early stops.
Well, that's because they're running in such a string, isn't it? But a new lap record then, of course, on a new circuit layout, 1:16.880, full 1.1 seconds faster than his brother Michael, who currently now leads by only 3.8. Thank goodness for that. Ralf Schumacher having a stunning drive and very much keeping the front end of this Grand Prix alive. And Barrichello's there too.
He certainly intends to make a go of it today, Ralf Schumacher. He was stung by the criticisms of Frank Williams last weekend, who claimed he was in a dip, not really at his best form, and he's certainly been performing very strongly this weekend. Took a second out of his brother on that lap, and it's such a shame he got bought by the traffic, isn't it? Because he was closing right in on Michael Schumacher just before he got held up by Jarno Trulli. Just looking at the body language there of the mechanics in the Williams area, it looked like they were getting ready for something, though. We are getting close to the zone for the first of 2 stops of the leading contenders as Alan McNish pits from 12th.
And down the far end of the pit lane he is too. Toyota, of course, a new team to Formula One, and that means they're parked down the pit lane in order of their championship finishing positions as manufacturers the year before. And that's why he has such a long run to get there and a short run out. But I think he was passed by his teammate, was he not? Salo, yes, getting ahead of McNish. They both pitted once.
So unfortunate for Alan McNish. He qualified ahead of Salo, and he seems to be going slow. Is that an engine blow-up?
Yeah. McNish with an engine problem. So often happens when you stop at the pits. You get an extra heat build-up, even in that 10 or 12 seconds that you're parked there and on the way out. So often they want to blow. Now remember, it was a blown Toyota engine that had a big effect on last Sunday's Grand Prix, and there does appear to be a bit of a trail behind him too, but quite clearly this time well off the racing and braking line.
Yes, McNish's Toyota blew up, ironically, also at the hairpin in Magny-Cours, dumped a load of oil on the track, and that's what Kimi Raikkonen spun on as Villeneuve and Bonoldi pit. And this is certainly what the Sauber team needed, for these guys to come in as soon as possible. They're in a race with both Saubers. Massa and Heidfeld will pick up some places here as they try to get back to the 8th position that they were, 8th and 9th position they were in before they made their early stops. There's quite a lot of smoke coming out of the back of that Toyota, isn't there?
Is indeed. Smoking damages your health and probably even your wealth if you miss a few Grand Prix points. The McNish really not having a lucky season, is he? He just needs it to fall his way very soon now to give him a better chance of keeping that seat for next year.
Although having said that, a number of the contenders have signed up for other teams, haven't they? Jenson Button was a serious contender. He's gone to the BAR team as we look at the early stages of about £250,000 worth of metal destruction taking place in the back of that Toyota.
Yeah, it's an oil fire. The car starts to consume its own, or the engine starts to consume its own oil when you get some kind of piston problem, whatever. You get crankcase pressure. There's a Renault, isn't it, in the boonies, and it's Jenson Button. He's had a miserable day. He was down in 17th anyway, having already lost power, and it looks as if he's driven off the road there to get out of the way. And we're, of course, then expecting a Ferrari in the pits, and they're kind of rushing at it, aren't they?
I believe it's Rubens Barrichello who's going to come in first. Michael Schumacher now crosses the line. This looks like it's a slightly hasty decision as Barrichello comes in. It's very last minute this for Ferrari. Barrichello in from 3rd place. He was 4 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher. Maybe he's had a puncture or something.
Either that or they were catching a lot of traffic. I wonder, and it looks hot, doesn't it? The car looks very, very hot. But I wonder if they thought, let's get him in now and not let him try and go through that traffic. McLaren, I think I saw in the background of the picture, also getting ready for a pit stop. And Raikkonen pits. Kimi Raikkonen pits from 5th place. So
we were talking about him being on a potential one-stopper. Ted, here he comes, a bit early.
Well, yes, very early. I'm not sure, James, that he is on a one-stopper. 2 stopping then, and the tyres look in a right state, I can tell you. But they're leaving them on. Fuel only then for Kimi Raikkonen. Obviously, these hard Michelins can survive another stint. Let's see what he can do with this run.
Well, they hope they can survive another stint, Ted, because they don't know. Nobody knows this racetrack. They haven't tested it, and they certainly haven't raced there before. It's only finished very recently. So that is a gamble by the McLaren team, no doubt about it.
And we're expecting Michael Schumacher to come in any moment now as well. The Ferrari mechanics are still out in the pit lane. Here he is coming down the pit lane. He's practiced this a lot throughout the weekend. This is his first of his 2 stops this afternoon, and his lead over Ralf Schumacher. Well, Ralf Schumacher is in fact now in the lead. He has taken over from Michael Schumacher, but Ralf has yet to stop.
Tidy stop, and they seem to almost have a hoover in there, don't they? Clearing out the side pods, any grass and debris in there. With so many people now in such a small area, you do get a lot of plastic bags and rubbish floating around the place. And he's come out with a lot of traffic in front of him, hasn't he? Look, and Benoldi having a think about passing the former race leader. He is, of course, lapped, but Michael then comes out with a lot of traffic ahead of him.
Well, as you were just saying, Martin, it was a smart move to get Barrichello in early because he missed that traffic, but Michael Schumacher has come out with this very intense scrap we've got going on between Panis, Massa, Heidfeld, Villeneuve, Trulli, Sarlo, Benoldi, and Michael Schumacher is plumb in the middle of that with a lot of work to do. And I imagine he'd be fuming because they're all racing each other and it's going to be very difficult for him to get past. But this is a moment that Ralf must capitalise on now. His brother is mired in traffic as Villeneuve clearly has some sort of problem. This is where Ralf has got to put the hammer down. The gap at the moment between himself and his brother, we're waiting for Michael Schumacher to cross the line for the first time to see exactly how much of a margin Ralf's got. And Coulthard running wide as well.
Coulthard inventing a new piece of racetrack there, the runoff areas, and just locked that inside front, couldn't turn it in. We've seen plenty of cars across there and getting away with it. He's not really got anybody near him, either in front or behind. And look at Montoya really struggling to get through the traffic. Montoya runs second at this time. Villeneuve, is this a replay or what? But in any event, I think it is a replay. Villeneuve has, we think, an engine problem. Montoya struggling his way through the traffic. Louise is with Frentzen.
I am Martin. Heinz Howard, a lot of problems in the brief space of 22 laps. First of all, what happened on the grid?
Well, the engine just stalled.
And then what put you out of the race ultimately?
Well, we were 2 laps later, but 2 laps too late, basically in the race. The race itself was already over, I have to say. But then we had another problem on the car. Now we're trying to analyze it at the moment, so we will see what is the problem.
Thanks, Heinz Harold.
Disaster!
Oh no, it's just what he didn't need.
Disaster then for Ralf. He just put in the 2 fastest laps of the race and a new lap record, and the BAR gets out of the way. That's a recovering Villeneuve with a problem. Finally saw him, cost him a couple of seconds, and all of the sterling work on the racetrack is lost because of a car in the way in the pit lane.
He had a 21-second lead before he turned off the racetrack. He will certainly have lost 2 seconds of that, as you said, Martin, and he needed about 23 to pass Michael, and Michael has just gone through and retakes the lead of a German Grand Prix. And the second piece of bad luck this afternoon for Ralf Schumacher, but he does get out in front of Rubens Barrichello, so some small mercy, but he had a chance to take the lead there, and he was very, very unlucky not to be able to do so.
Yeah, actually, if you look at the gap that Michael's got on him, I don't think he'd quite done enough to take the lead. Villeneuve must have cost him 2-3 seconds, but Michael Schumacher's further down the road than that, and Coulthard slewing in towards the speed limit area, desperately trying to slow the car down. Will they give him new tyres? Yes, indeed, they are putting tyres on, aren't they? So quite used ones, but they're electing to change Coulthard's tyres. They didn't do so with teammate Raikkonen. We'll watch their 2 respective lap times with interest.
So the man who actually leads this motor race at the moment is Juan Montoya. He has yet to make his pit stop, but the McLaren mechanics are out waiting for him. The McLaren, what am I talking about? BMW Williams mechanics are out there waiting for him, so it'll only be a 1-lap lead for Juan Montoya. Indeed, he dives into the pit lane now, and that means that Michael Schumacher will resume the lead ahead of Ralf and Rubens Barrichello, and the margin between Michael Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher we will find in a moment for you as Montoya stops. Looks pretty straightforward, very tidy stop indeed by the Williams team. He's been a bit anonymous again this afternoon, Juan Montoya, driving around more or less on his own throughout the afternoon, and 4.7 seconds is in fact the margin between Michael Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher. So you're right, Martin, Michael Schumacher did have enough in his pocket anyway.
Yes, indeed. It's strange with Montoya, isn't it? When he's on it, he's unbelievable, but when it won't quite hook up, he seems to be a long way off the pace. Blows a bit hot and cold, but he's certainly getting rid gradually of those bad days and having more and more good days, but this is not one of them. Louise is within the pits with Alan McNish.
Alan, that's the second race in a row your engine's launched itself. Bit frustrating for you.
It wasn't actually the engine this time. We had a hydraulic problem directly after the pit stop and it didn't accelerate correctly. I was trying to get it back to the pits, but unfortunately it stopped at the end of the straight.
Very frustrating because it's been a good weekend for you. Your best ever grid position, oh sorry, not your best ever, but ahead of Mika.
Yes, it has been a good weekend right from when we turned up here on Friday, and I think, to be honest with you, last 3 or 4 races have really started to click together, and it is frustrating because circuit miles are things that's going to help the team.
Onwards and upwards in Hungary.
Thank you.
Miserable day for the Brits, really. Coulthard is 6th, Irvine 15th, Button and McNish out of the race.
Everybody has stopped once. We have 16 cars. No, we have 15 cars, I beg your pardon, because Jacques Villeneuve is now showing as being retired. 15 cars still running. Eddie Irvine is last in the Jaguar, but he is at the tail of a huge battle that's been going on throughout the Grand Prix. Felipe Massa, Heidfeld, Sato, Trulli, Salo, Fisichella and Bernoldi all duking it out for the positions around the fringes of the top 10. Felipe Massa, interestingly, Sauber's strategy has worked for them reasonably well. They are both back where they started, 8th and 9th. So although they made the early stops, they've managed to reclaim track position. On board though with Juan Montoya.
No need to lift the throttle through that right kink, so the car's working quite well at this stage. His teammate is blisteringly fast up at the front, or in second place I should say. Still 1.5 seconds faster than just about anybody else. But Montoya, as we're on board with him, has just set the fastest time of anybody through that middle sector. So it seems the two Williams are enjoying the second phase of this Grand Prix. New set of tyres, a bit more gas, but it seems to be working very well.
We quite often see this, don't we, Martin? It changes a set of tyres at a pit stop, and sometimes the driver doesn't like them, the tyre pressures are wrong, or they seem to lose grip. Other times it just brings the car alive. Now, Ralf Schumacher was flying before his pit stop, but Montoya wasn't, and now he is.
Yes, often you'll radio in just before your stop and have a discussion with your engineer about tyre pressures to adjust the balance of the car, providing the tyre manufacturer is giving you, and for the second time this afternoon, Ralf losing a bit of time getting past Trulli, but providing the tyre manufacturer gives you consistent tyres, you can tweak the pressures through the race and affect the balance, or they'll give it a little twist of front wing to change the aerodynamic balance forwards or rearwards as well. And Ralf then just having to hesitate behind Jarno Trulli, who this time though gets out of the way.
Yes, Ralf has been held up before by Jarno Trulli earlier in this Grand Prix. This is lap 33, and Ralf Schumacher and Juan Montoya in the BMW Williamses are turning the wick up. Ralf is now just over 3.5 seconds behind his brother as we look at that's the Jordan passing, that's Fisichella going past Salo, but then Salo repassing him, and that's a battle for 12th place. So Fisichella really struggled clearly in that round of pit stops and has dropped down to 13th place. This is lap 34. Thirty-three laps to go in this 67-lap German Grand Prix. The positions remain unchanged. Michael Schumacher leading his brother Ralf by 3.5 seconds. And with just his luck going slightly differently this afternoon, Ralf Schumacher could well have been leading this race. He was held up once very badly and once not so badly by Jarno Trulli in the Renault when he was trying to lap him, and then also got held up by Jacques Villeneuve as he came in towards the pits. But Louise is down with Jenson Button.
Jenson, all sorts of problems for you in that race.
Yeah, it was very eventful, we could say.
What went on?
Start wasn't too bad, got 3 or 4 places at the start, and then I had a lot of understeer from lap 3 on. It was caused by the diff, we had some errors on the diff. Then a couple of laps later, I had a lot of loss of engine power, and the only way of getting the engine power back to normal was to turn the traction control off, which was a lot of fun. but wasn't very quick. So, and that was it really. Then we had a problem then, and the engine just cut out.
Your teammates just had a drive-through penalty as well, so it's kind of all going wrong for Renault today, isn't it?
Not the best day for us, obviously, but hopefully we'll get all the problems out of the way here and then enjoy the rest of the season.
Thanks, gents.
The diff, or the differential as it's known, is what transmits the power from the back of the engine and gearbox sideways through the drive shafts out to the rear wheels. So a setup problem then for Button, and then obviously electrical problems, but it would have been fun, I would imagine, driving a modern Formula 1 car with no traction control. Be quite a lively thing at the back end, and the back like it used to be. So Montoya then maintains fourth position. He's 33 seconds ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, who must be ruining whoever's decision it was to leave his tyres on, because he's lapping very, very slowly. Fifth place man Räikkönen being caught by sixth place man Coulthard at over a second a lap. So that gamble by McLaren did not pay off.
Very strange, isn't it? There was clearly a good reason for it. The decision must have been taken. They would have consulted with the driver. Presumably the driver may himself have asked for it to be that way, but definitely Kimi Räikkönen struggling, lapping in the mid 1 minute 19 second range, whilst the race leaders are in the high 1 minute 17s, and Coulthard is in the 1 minute 18. So McLaren not really on the pace this weekend at all of BMW Williams, using the same tyres, and the trend of the last few weekends where McLaren have been quicker and have got more use out of the tyres seems to have been reversed. Ted, what can you tell us?
Well, Martin, James, I've been looking very carefully at the McLaren tyres that came off of David Coulthard's car at his first stop. I can tell you they had a very fine line of blistering around the rear tyres. Now, Räikkönen's tyres weren't actually in
Ted,
that bad
we have
shape.
to stop you there, because Räikkönen has had a blowout left rear corner. Sorry to interrupt you, but a dramatic blowout for Kimi Räikkönen. Martin?
Yeah, I think they just went too far on them, didn't they? And maybe it's just a normal puncture, but it does seem as if they were leaning on I think that's what Ted was about to tell us, actually, that they're leaning too heavily on those tyres by not changing them. Maybe there's another reason they didn't change them, but they absolutely made no attempt whatsoever as the tyre blows out at top speed as he hits the brakes, and that's the moment when the tyre is most under pressure. So I would imagine it's a carcass failure there rather than a puncture, because they pushed them too far into the race.
He has no luck with hairpins, does he, Kimi Räikkönen? Last Sunday he hit some oil into a hairpin at Magny-Cours, and look at him, he's trying to get this car back to the pits. He's actually decided to go across the middle of the track, as the carcass has clearly failed. And it's like Gilles Villeneuve in the glory days, this. He used to try and drive cars back on three wheels with... This is perhaps good for his legend as a fighter, but not very good for the left rear corner of that McLaren.
No, he's about to learn a lesson that you can do an awful lot of damage with the tyre flailing like that. His rear tyre decided to take the shortcut through the barrier there and cut about half a mile out and make its own way back to the pits. Wasn't enjoying the journey, look. And that is, for me, that's a classic case of a tyre that's been used too long, and they start to fail just on the edges of the sidewall, where the sidewall meets the tyre tread itself. And Räikkönen then, if he's lucky, he won't have damaged too much bodywork and or suspension.
In he comes. Just have a look how bad that damage is. You can see the mechanics around the back, engineers as well, taking a look. They're not checking it all that carefully, are they? They're just making sure, just moving something out of the way. Bodywork, I think, is caught. No, a bit of old tyre. I don't see any senior engineers there. Do you, having a look?
Well, there's a number of people that would have the authority. Somebody in there will be empowered to make a decision, and that decision clearly is that put him back in the race. Ted?
Yeah, Martin, it wasn't the senior engineers. Räikkönen's engineer, Steve Hallam, was actually sitting on the pit wall. It was Steve Giles, who's the chief mechanic, was taking a very close look at that rear suspension. I was just about to say, before we saw Räikkönen's blowout, that his tyres must be so marginal by then, but he's rejoined. Let's see what else he can do.
And it's surely cost him some points this afternoon, because, and that's a Benetton that's had a big shunt, which can only be Jarno Trulli, because Jenson Button is out of the race. And is that another Michelin then? Now that's Räikkönen's tyre still trying to make its way back to the pits. So where does Jarno Trulli get involved in this story?
Well, yes, we've seen Jenson Button retire. We've actually heard from him as well. The replay there of Räikkönen's flailing tyre. Look at the damage it's doing to the floor.
Yeah, that's the problem, you see. The flailing bits, the metal in there just damages the aerodynamic pieces. But because there was such a pack behind the two McLarens that were running nose to tail, that's going to cost Räikkönen surely any chance of some World Championship points this afternoon. Elevates Coulthard to fifth, and Panis up to 6th.
It was Jarno Trulli we saw having the problem. He has had an accident in the third sector. He's crashed in the stadium. I think it might even be into the Sachs curve that Jarno Trulli has had an accident, because he's showing as being stopped in sector 3. So now we're down to just 14 cars, including Kimi Räikkönen, who's recovering from that puncture. It's dropped him down from 5th place right down to 14th place. This is lap 40. Michael Schumacher, the leader, 28 to go. 5.5 seconds between Michael Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher, and then 2 seconds behind the younger Schumacher brother is Barrichello. Montoya 10 seconds further back from that. Coulthard 5th. Panis looking for some points for British American Racing. There he is in your frame in 6th place, ahead of Heidfeld and Massa as well in 8th. And Massa being told to get out of the way. Twice now he's had wave blue flags. He needs to get out of the way of Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, that was an expensive lap, as we see 6th place man Panis spin off the racetrack, having run so well today, but he had Heidfeld just a half second behind him. I wonder if they've touched. Did the Sauber and the BAR touch? Shame for Panis, because he appears not to have any drive at this time. Or did he spin it all by himself? And it was all by himself under braking into turn 2. And Ollie, you've thrown away a good chance of a World Championship point.
And handed a very good chance to the Sauber team. That was a weird-looking incident. I bet Heidfeld's rubbing his hands with glee. He's managed to get himself in the points already 6 times this season. And Sauber looking set fair for at least another 1 World Championship point at the moment.
And Michael Schumacher's put the hammer down. I started to say before we saw Panis spin off that it was a very expensive lap in the traffic for Ralf Schumacher. And the lead is now 7 seconds. Just as Ralf hit the traffic, Michael put the hammer down, did his personal best of the race in the 1:16s, and the gap was 7 seconds, is now up to 7.4. Schumacher beginning to stretch his legs at the front.
Beautiful hot sunny day here in central Germany. We're about halfway between Frankfurt and Stuttgart, and an enormous crowd, 120,000 people in this expanded Hockenheimring. They've built new grandstands in several locations and changed the circuit quite dramatically to improve it as a spectator venue. And although it is still something of a building site in parts, as Ralf Schumacher laps the Sauber there of Felipe Massa, I believe it is, or no, it's Nick Heidfeld, they've certainly made it a better spectator racetrack. Rubens Barrichello now just 1.8 seconds off the tail of Ralf Schumacher, so it's starting to look not quite so good again for the BMW Williams team. They did have a charge about 10 laps ago, and they were both looking very good, both Ralf Schumacher and Juan Montoya, but at the moment the pendulum swinging a little bit towards the Ferrari team.
And they're in a league of their own, although Coulthard has managed to get in the 1:17s and early 18s now, but he's 61 seconds behind race leader. Are we going to see, as we did in Imola, we're going to see a Ferrari lapping a McLaren again?
Certainly been a very difficult weekend for the McLaren team. They just have not found the right balance for the car around here as Heidfeld moves over and lets Barrichello through. Interestingly, coming to this race, McLaren had 4 podiums in the last 5 races. BMW Williams team just the 1. It's been a lean streak for Williams. And Ralf Schumacher currently 2nd and still in with a chance of winning this Grand Prix. He clearly wants to get himself back up on the podium again.
Kimi Räikkönen fell down to 13th place with that long run to the pits on only 3 wheels, and is lapping very slowly, so some bodywork damage and aerodynamic damage. The 13th place is last at the moment.
Yeah, just 13 runners. And I tell you, Martin, the guy who's had a problematic afternoon is Giancarlo Fisichella. Absolutely awesome yesterday in qualifying, put 6th on the grid, and somehow or other he was going very strongly, but then in the pit stop, first round of pit stops, he's dropped down and he's now in 10th place, and that's Sauber getting ready for one of their 2 drivers.
Well, Massa stopped quite early, if you remember, and first of the 2 Sauber runners last time around, so we've got to assume it's Massa that'll be coming in the pits from 7th place. Sauber's 6th and 7th at this time, and indeed, just to prove me completely, in fact it is Massa, so yes, Massa. Heidfeld was in 6th, Massa 7th, and he pits then.
Bang on target. This is lap 44. It's a little bit earlier than the other 2 stoppers have been doing, but it worked for them first time round. Will it work for them again? They're on for at least 1 World Championship point with Nick Heidfeld. Massa pits from 7th. He's already dropped down to 8th. Now he's 9th. Now he's 10th. as Fisichella goes through. Can he get back out in front of Enrique Bernoldi? Yes, he can. Bernoldi at the very top of the pit straight, there he is. So Felipe Massa is 11th. And down in the pits with Louise is Jarno Trulli, who is presumably not feeling too good about his afternoon.
You're right, James. Not feeling too good at all, I don't think. Jarno, not a good day for you. Tell me about that drive-through penalty. Did the team not tell you that the car was behind you?
Yes, and I give the way. So I don't understand why I got a drive-through penalty. But anyway, it was the race was lost because in the beginning I had some big tire degradation from the rear suddenly, probably blistering. So I had to stop, put another new set of tires, which was working well. But then I was in the middle of the traffic and with the Ferrari coming up. So then I was behind the Giancarlo and I was very close. He braked slightly earlier and to avoid the collision I went off.
Thanks, Jarno.
Well, clearly Ralf Schumacher thought he'd been held up with his fist out of the cockpit. The lead drivers know that with so many onboard cameras, they're almost certainly going to be seen by the race stewards. So it's well worth them getting a fist out of the cockpit. But it's not really Ralf Schumacher's style. I think Jarno could have let him go in the pit straight instead of holding him up for yet another corner as Mika Salo pits for the second time this afternoon and presumably a scheduled one. It looks slow, but he's on the limiter at the moment. They're clearly ready for him with a new set of tyres. In goes the fuel. The man with the lollipop at the front will say foot on the brake, then he'll turn it over and say first gear, and anytime soon he'll be released.
Yep, the Toyota team, their first season in Formula One, they're getting better and better at turning up for races and tuning their cars in and all the things that all these other teams have been doing for many, many years, like pit stops and just the whole routine of going through a Grand Prix weekend, making sure the drivers are in the right place at the right time, making sure the sponsors are all looked after. It's an enormous operation to go Formula One racing in the modern era, and Toyota very much looking the part nowadays. Only one Toyota in the field, though. We've lost Alan McNish. We've lost quite a few cars already, just 13 runners. And the gap at the front on lap 46 in this 67-lap race as Nick Heidfeld pits as well for Sauber is Michael Schumacher, 9 seconds now ahead of Ralf Schumacher. But Ralf has just set his fastest lap of the afternoon. Unfortunate for him, it was a little bit slower than Michael Schumacher's. And we've got a double pit stop. The Heidfeld will get out in front of Fisichella. And as I mentioned before, it's been a disappointing... Oh, it's Sato, I beg your pardon. Disappointing afternoon for the Jordan team after so much promising qualifying.
And indeed the warm-up, James. They were sensationally fast in this morning's warm-up. In third place was Giancarlo Fisichella. So they've not delivered this afternoon. But this man is delivering. He has definitely raised the game. Now down in the low 1 minute 16s again. So Michael Schumacher does appear to have some speed in hand. He's catching Raikkonen, who's already a lap down due to that problem, is lapping 3 seconds a lap slower, we think because of aerodynamic problems, and is about to go 2 laps down. So Ferrari clearly ready then for another stop.
Yeah, Barrichello stopped first last time round, so we expect him to be the one. Here he is, Rubens Barrichello from third place, and Ted is down there.
James, are you with me? Yeah, here we go. Anyway, Rubens Barrichello been nibbling away the gap to Ralf Schumacher, down to 2.9 seconds. Oh, what's the problem now?
No
fuel hose has got on. Now, they're messing about with it. Let's see if they can get that hose back on again. Back to you.
Yes, it seems as if they pulled away and they didn't try to fuel. Strange, like they had a problem and thought, we just can't fuel it, send him.
I don't think any fuel's gone into that car. You could see they were waving him out. There's some kind of problem, as you say, Martin. So Rubens Barrichello looks like he will have to stop again. Disaster for the Brazilian driver. He's had all the unreliability of Ferrari. Michael Schumacher has gone merrily on his way, 16 consecutive points finishes. In fact, only one of those has he not been on the podium. That's the kind of reliability he's been enjoying. And yet all the problems seem to fall on Rubens' shoulders. Already 5 times this year he's had to retire, and once again some sort of problem with the refuelling as Michael Schumacher dives into the pits. And let's hope he's got a different rig.
Yeah, they'll have a different rig, but I tell you, if I stepped on a plane and saw Rubens Barrichello on it, I think I'd step straight off it. He just seems the most unlucky man ever in Formula One motor racing. And the hose is on this time around. Inevitably, it's a very good stop for Michael Schumacher, and he will slip down. Obviously, he has lost the lead of the race because Ralph's yet to stop. But Michael then, who's that coming round turn 1 behind him? Presumably it's Montoya, who has also got to stop again yet. So that's good news for Michael Schumacher. Gets back on track ahead of Montoya, so there can be no spoiling actions there to help the other Williams out.
It's nothing but good news for Michael Schumacher, really, isn't it? Rubens Barrichello has a problem refueling. Michael comes in, it works like a dream. He goes out and he's in front of the only bloke who could hold him up and cause him any problems this afternoon. Well, there's no doubting that Michael Schumacher is the most skillful Grand Prix driver, but there is also no doubting he's the luckiest Charlie out there as well.
Williams ready for a stop, and let's see who came in first. Last time it was Ralf Schumacher pitted first of the two Williams. He currently leads the Grand Prix by 15 seconds from teammate Montoya. Sorry, that's of course it's Michael Schumacher is in second. The computer's not caught up with all that action yet, and Ralf indeed then pits from the lead. There's the speed limit line. He'll have to pass anything red in the pit lane and bang, past McLaren into his box. Sits there calmly, holds the steering wheel, not changing the front tyres, just fueling it this time. So nearly, I think the lollipop came back down again, but that's a brave move, isn't it, given the problems that Raikkonen had?
Yep, they're on the same harder compound Michelin tyre as McLaren, so a very brave move indeed, given the problems that McLaren had earlier on with Raikkonen, where the tyre exploded, the carcass failed, and with he's got to do 19 laps on that set of tyres, so it's less than Raikkonen was attempting to do, so he should be okay.
The only thing is, we saw that pit stop, James, from on board Ralf Schumacher, and the front tyres clearly weren't changed, but I don't know if the rears were changed out of our view. It was an interesting stop. Well, let's have a look. Now we're going to see it. Comes in, and let's have a look. There's no wheels there, so they're absolutely not going to change his tyres in any way, shape or form, and nor did they expect to.
Just watch the lollipop, though. There was obviously some hesitation. Yeah, he didn't lift the lollipop, so it wasn't ready. He just went. Yeah,
the fuel came out, and understandably, the fuel was quite a long way away. Ralf thought, I'm out of here.
So he clearly saw the hose coming off in his mirror and thought, that's me gone. And the lollipop man obviously didn't. Well, they've had some problems, haven't they? Because he ran over Carl Gayden's foot, the lollipop man, earlier this season. So they need a bit of communication sharpening up there in the Williams team. Here comes Montoya, though.
Yeah, Ralf was very nearly sucking on that lollipop if he hadn't have dipped the clutch one more time. But crew ready. Again, no tyres. Yes, there are. They've just appeared in from the back of the scene. So they are changing the tyres then of Montoya. That's a very brave move on the Ralf Schumacher car.
I wonder if it's a driver decision. Because if it's a team decision, then why make a different one for your other driver just a lap later?
Well, it's an each-way bet, and surely, you know, the longest process is the refueling, not the changing of the tyres. So it's not like it saves you any time, especially with that little hiccup on the way out of the pits. But Montoya then rejoins in what will, of course, be third place after that disaster for Barrichello. Barrichello hasn't, well, we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out, but Barrichello has not come back in again, so we've got to assume they did get fuel in, James.
Yep, absolutely right. We have got to presume that. And Michael Schumacher has since been in and refueled successfully, so they know that one of the rigs is working. We've had quite a lot of refueling problems this season, and this man's had his fair share of them too, David Coulthard. But it's the first time we've seen it with Ferrari for some period of time. Coulthard exits the pits. It's one of the arrows just coming through. And what we need to find out now is where Ralf Schumacher is relative to Juan Montoya in the race. And as all the arrows let's go, that's the second arrow's retirement of the day. Enrique Benoldi, I believe, Martin, that as a result of Ralf Schumacher's problems, he is still showing a second place. He is 9.7 seconds behind his brother Michael. This is lap 51. Michael Schumacher leads from Ralf Schumacher as Benoldi has flames extinguished. Montoya still third, Barrichello fourth, Coulthard fifth, and Heidfeld still in sixth place. "15 laps to go in this 67-lap German Grand Prix. Kimi Raikkonen, who's had a very eventful afternoon with a tyre exploding on him, also seems to be having some problems still on his new set of tyres. We've got oil down the track from a blow-up of Enrique Benoldi, the Cosworth engine there of Enrique Benoldi just letting go. Michael Schumacher is still leading the race. He's 9 seconds ahead of his brother Ralf, and as a result of the problems that Rubens Barrichello's had with his refueling hose, he has dropped down to 4th place now. Juan Montoya has made his second stop of the afternoon. You can see there they are. Montoya exits the frame, Barrichello pops in. He's 5.7 seconds behind the Colombian. So Barrichello, who has been 3rd all afternoon, has now dropped into 4th place. David Coulthard has made his second stop of the afternoon in 5th place. Nick Heidfeld is still 6th, although he has been off the road across the grass, and that is the offending article in the Ferrari garage. These rigs made by a French company called Intertechnique, and obviously they're highly sophisticated pieces of equipment, because although refueling provides some sort of entertainment in Formula 1 terms, it also comes at a price. It's quite risky putting fuel into a car under pressure when everything around the car is so hot. There's always a danger of fire.
But there has been a range of problems for a number of years now with these rigs, and the teams squeal quite loud about it because they're not allowed to touch them, interfere with them in any way. Otherwise, they were improving the fuel flow rate, which would give you quite an advantage in the Grand Prix if you could get the fuel in your car just that little bit quicker and shorten your pit stops. But the teams really say, hang on a minute, we can't control the quality of this product, and it keeps blowing Grand Prix points and opportunities for us. But that's standard issue to all of the teams.
Looking at Felipe Massa in 7th place. Decent afternoon for the Sauber team. They've had a bit of a lean run recently, but looking set for yet another points finish here in Germany. And good news for them is that their technical director, Willy Rampf, who is responsible for a lot of the technical innovations on the Sauber car in the last 2 seasons, he had a huge money offer to join Toyota for next season alongside Gustav Brunner, but he's turned that down, preferring to stay with the Sauber team. They in fact offered to double his salary. It's not many people in Formula 1 who would turn down an opportunity to double your salary. And he is German as well, Willy Rampf, who's trained by BMW, so moving to Cologne would hardly be a hardship for him from Switzerland. But very interesting he chose to stay at Sauber.
Yeah, it does seem that Toyota is struggling to really attract top drivers and top engineers at the moment. Don't know why. They certainly have got a great future in terms of they've got the budgets to do it, and they're obviously at the beginning of an upslope, you'd have to assume. But at the moment, we were expecting 1 or 2 drivers to make a big ploy to go there, but it hasn't happened. So probably much to Alan McNish's relief at this stage of the season, and indeed this man Sala, because Ovi Anderson, the boss man, was reported as saying both of our drivers are not necessarily guaranteed a seat next year, which is quite a hurry-up message, if indeed that was an accurate quote.
I'm just interested to see what's happened this afternoon to Giancarlo Fisichella, because he's found himself now behind Takuma Sato, his teammate, and he was well in front of him on the grid, and also behind Mika Salo. So something's gone wrong for Giancarlo Fisichella. He was definitely in with a shout of points. He qualified in front of both Saubers. In fact, he was just a whisker away from out-qualifying David Coulthard. Kimi Raikkonen for 5th place. So Fisichella has had a problem of some sort this afternoon, down in 10th place.
Just 12 runners then in the Grand Prix. Bernoldi is out with an engine problem. Panis spun in turn 2, maybe had a downshift or something that contributed to that. Trulli had an accident, although we didn't see it. Villeneuve we saw limping around. Button, and what happened to Button? Was that a blown engine for Jenson Button? We saw him parked on the side of the road, didn't we? McNish, it turned out to be a hydraulic problem that was burning out the back of his car. Webber coasted back into the pit slowly and retired, as did Frentzen, and Della Rosa out on the very first lap with some kind of gremlins in the Jaguar, again parked up on the side of the racetrack.
It's a high attrition rate here at Hockenheim. The revised circuit 1.5 miles shorter than the old Hockenheim, but we've had high track temperatures here this afternoon. This place is difficult on the brakes now, and it's 38 degrees the track temperature at the moment, and Michael Schumacher still leaning on it.
Michael Schumacher then 1 short straight away from lapping Coulthard and double lapping Kimi Raikkonen. So just, I think, confirms the superiority of this Ferrari this afternoon, and the fact that McLaren really having a miserable day. If Coulthard catches Raikkonen, he'll too will lap him. Raikkonen lost so much time getting back to the pits with that blowout, tyre failure, whatever it might be. It's so difficult to be sure on those things. If they take it away for forensic sort of investigation, and they usually come up with an answer, and it always makes me wonder how they know what happened to a tyre when, as we saw, it was going in 3 different directions at one point there.
Yes, if you're just joining us, Kimi Raikkonen was running in 5th place and had a spectacular tyre blowout, having made the decision in his first round of pit stops not to change the tyres on his McLaren-Mercedes, and in retrospect it was a bad decision because the tyre blew up and Raikkonen lost any chance of points here this afternoon. Well, we've also had problems with refuelling here, particularly on Rubens Barrichello's car. Ted Kravitz is down the pits. What can you tell us about that?
Well, James, we did a feature in France, if you remember, about the 2 problems that can go wrong with the fuel rigs. It's either the computer that runs it or the nozzle. And I can tell you, I've just been next to Ferrari and they confirm it was a nozzle problem. A couple of the catches on the nozzle weren't attached properly to the fuel tank. And then the fuel, of course, didn't go in. They switched rigs and it was all okay. So nozzle problem on that rig for Barrichello.
So nozzle so good for Barrichello, but clearly the fuel did manage to go in, though, Ted. Enough fuel to get him to the end of the race.
Strange, though, how it when they seemed like they were just standing back from the car. They weren't trying or attempting to have another go at fueling, and then somebody obviously said, get back in there. And then it fueled, obviously, clearly, because he's still running. He would have only had a lap or 2 fuel left in the car before he pitted. So quite clearly then, next time they went to it, it worked absolutely fine.
Interestingly, before the second round of pit stops, we had a shot on the screens of one of the Ferrari mechanics talking as with Kimi Raikkonen. We get a replay there of that blowout from a few laps ago. You can see how dramatic it was. And he, rather Gilles Villeneuve-like, trying to get it back to the pits. It's not happened again, has it, surely?
No, that's a replay. He'd lost it into the hairpin, but I think that's a replay of when the puncture was the early problem, and then the carcass departing the car altogether was the secondary problem, which is what that replay was, James, from some laps ago.
I was going to say, it would be really bad luck. Down in the pits, Louise Goodman has news for us on Giancarlo Fisichella's afternoon. He started 6th, currently 10th. What's gone wrong, Lou?
It all went wrong for him in the first pit stop, James. They had a problem with the right front wheel. While they were correcting that, the clutch started slipping, and that caused the engine to stall, so the guys had to fire him up again. That's why he's lost those positions.
Yeah, but he's still, even over and above that problem, he's not been fast this afternoon. He's back down to 1:19, Fisichella, 10th place. So not been a great afternoon for him. So Michael Schumacher leads then by 10.2 seconds from his brother Ralf. Montoya 3rd, 12.3 seconds behind. Barrichello 4th, Coulthard 5th, Heidfeld 6th.
Just 7 laps to go in the German Grand Prix here at the heavily revised Hockenheim circuit, and unfortunately right in front of the new Mercedes-Benz grandstand, Michael Schumacher, for the 2nd time this season, laps David Coulthard. That will not go down well in the offices at Stuttgart of Mercedes-Benz, but there's nothing Coulthard could have done about it.
Absolutely not, but there, I mean, Raikkonen's about to get lapped for the 2nd time too, so just to double the pain. I think it was expected with this different layout of circuit would suit the McLaren, but for whatever reason, they did not get their Michelins working. They did not find the right setup. It's been a curious weekend, James. Those that have found the groove, got the car hooked up, have been very fast. Those that haven't have been miles behind. There's sort of almost 2 camps there this weekend of teams that found a way with this new layout, and clearly Ferrari have. Barrichello then, though, still 4th. Surprisingly for me, as Fisichella runs extremely wide and out of the Grand Prix. We are now down to just 10 runners then. Irvine has retired, just pulled into the pits and retired. Fisichella drops out of what was 10th place. Raikkonen takes over 10th, so 10 runners remaining in the German Grand Prix.
And then there were none. Still got 6 laps to go here at Hockenheim, and Barrichello having a bit of a tank slapper moment. He's just checking something from the looks of things.
Yeah, he's giving a little feel down the pit straight, isn't he, into turn 1. That's a strange thing to do. It's not really a message he's giving the team, I don't think, there, but an unusual thing to do towards the end of a Grand Prix. Don't know what Barrichello's doing, doesn't bother to do it, and waved oil flags then down there for Fisichella, suggesting some kind of mechanical failure.
Well, Honda this weekend brought along their heavily revised engine, which is more powerful, and certainly Jenson Button announcing he's moving to be... Oh, that's Raikkonen off the track. Kimi Raikkonen has had a very bad German Grand Prix. Tyre blowout earlier on, and now it looks as though that car has beached itself into the tyre barriers. We don't know if he went off or if he's just parked it there, having had some sort of technical failure. That's Mr. Hubbard, top man of Mercedes-Benz, and well, he'll have a difficult meeting with his boss on...
It's in the final corner, isn't it, James? Can't quite see it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's in the final. He's just dropped it basically in between those last two corners, nerfed the tyre barrier, and parks the car. End of a dismal day for Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah, I was just saying about the Honda engine. They brought heavily revised engines here, and Jenson Button announcing he's going to the team next season. And he couldn't have timed it better, really, because they certainly look as though they're getting their act together now, the Honda Motor Company, after a very disappointing 18 months of Formula One. And this is a Williams team, an unscheduled stop with just a few laps to go here at Hockenheim. In fact, just 5 to go, and I wonder whether it's the tyre problem. He didn't change his tyres, did he, Ralf Schumacher? And I wonder whether he's paid the price for it.
We got a message up from Louise in the pit lane saying she thought she'd seen some blisters on the front tyres of Ralf Schumacher. We know because we sat on board with him during his stop. They definitely didn't change them. And is it Ralf Schumacher they're expecting? And there's the pit lane line. Yes, indeed it is. Ralf Schumacher then, who's got an 8.6 second lead over his teammate, which he will now lose second place. And Barrichello was something like 24 seconds behind him. So he may just keep third. Ted.
Ralf Schumacher in. They're making an adjustment to the little computer that's in the side of the car. Now they've made that and he's out. There weren't any tyres. They didn't bring any tyres out. No tyres were changed. There's something electronical gone wrong with that car of Ralf Schumacher's.
Thank you, Ted. He's lost second place then, but he retains third because Barrichello's only just going in front of our commentary box here on the start-finish line. So then Ralf Schumacher down to third. Montoya, amazingly, who's sort of done nothing all afternoon, up to second.
Yeah, no danger of him being your driver of the day, I wouldn't think. He's had a fairly anonymous afternoon, kept it on the black stuff. And one man who certainly hasn't kept it on the black stuff is Eddie Irvine. He's with Louise.
Bad day for the British drivers, Eddie. You're the third man out. It wasn't really a good race for you, was it?
No, we made a reasonable start. In the beginning, I probably was quicker than the guys I was around. Button was in problems. I think he must have blistered his tyres because they started on new ones. And then he ran wide at one corner. I tried to get up the inside of him and opened the throttle, and we had a TO failure, just a traction control failure, and the car just full horsepower around she went. And then I started having a misfire because of the traction control, and again it failed at coming into the stadium. And then I had to switch it off because it was better not to have it than to have it intermittently, and we just drove around really, but we weren't there anyway.
Thanks, Eddie.
So Eddie Irvine explaining then quite clearly why he's had 3 spins this afternoon, traction control cutting in and out to the point where it was catching him out, and he just switched it off anyway. So that then is the leading Ferrari with 5th place man Coulthard behind him. And Michael beginning to slow his pace now as he moves into the final few tours, and really able to coast. He's now got a 23.4 second lead to Montoya.
Yeah, Schumacher leading on lap 65 from Juan Montoya. Ralf Schumacher, having made that third pit stop to check something on the car and adjust the onboard computer, has dropped down into third place. Rubens Barrichello is down to 4th. 5th, David Coulthard. 6th, Nick Heidfeld. 7th is Heidfeld's teammate Felipe Massa in the other Sauber. 8th, Takuma Sato, on track for his best result of the season so far for Jordan. And 9th is Mika Salo, and amazingly, that's all the cars we have still running here at this brutal new Hockenheim circuit. There's Ross Brawn talking, no doubt, to team leader of Ferrari, Michael Schumacher, just talking him in this last 2 laps, just telling him what everybody else is doing, what margins he has over Juan Montoya. What a double act they are. Michael Schumacher has won 61 Grand Prix. If he keeps going for another 2 laps, he'll make it 62. And Ross Brawn has been whispering in his ear for all but 3 of them.
And if Coulthard will get a chance to unlap himself and take away a bit of the pain for the afternoon. But unfortunately the damage is done there by and large. Schumacher's lead was down to 20 seconds last time around because he's just coasting and cruising. But Barrichello moved to within 4.3 seconds of Ralf Schumacher, but I don't think he's going to have a chance of snatching that third place. It's looking pretty solid, isn't it, for a Michael Schumacher win, Montoya and then Ralf Schumacher for the final 2 podium positions then, if you like. Barrichello, Coulthard 5th, Heidfeld still 6th, now 6.7 seconds clear of teammate Massa in 7th. Then the only 2 other runners in the race are Sato and Salo. 9 runners.
That's astonishing, really. You've got to go back to the Monaco Grand Prix, the last time that one of the 2 Williams drivers was on the podium. But the Ferrari team know exactly what the story is for them. And presumably, Martin, you'll be giving this guy the driver of the day accolades. He's driven pretty faultlessly, hasn't he?
Difficult not to, isn't it, really? I mean, it's not. We've had 2 brilliant Grand Prix at Silverstone and Manicourt last weekend. This has not been the most fascinating, although there was a period earlier on in the race where it was all action at the front and in the midfield. But you have to say, it seems as if Michael Schumacher was comfortably within his limits all afternoon. Perfect start, brilliant first lap, and quite clearly driver of the day.
So 120,000 people came here this weekend. They knew that their man had already won the World Championship in France last Sunday. They wanted to give him a homecoming. They wanted to let go the air horns, put their red and yellow and black flags up in the air. They wanted to pack out this stadium and show him just how much they love him. And in return, they wanted one thing. They wanted him to win the German Grand Prix in a Ferrari, something he had never done before. Now he is 2 corners. No, make that 1 corner away. His arm is out of the cockpit, and Michael Schumacher fills in a very important gap on his CV. He wins the German Grand Prix for Ferrari, his 9th victory of what is an absolutely mesmerising season.
So he finally does it then. He finally wins in front of his home crowd, or certainly his home Grand Prix for Ferrari, and the 2 Williams come over the line for 2nd and 3rd. Ralf Schumacher will be very disappointed. I think the first half of the race, his performance was quite exceptional, but not to be his afternoon. Whatever that little gremlin was, they had to adjust. Barrichello's finished 4th. Coulthard already in 5th, as he was a lap behind the leader, and Heidfeld and Massa similarly over a lap behind in 6th and 7th. Sato and Salo will round out the top and only 9.
So Schumacher has now had 17 consecutive points finishes, only 1 of them not on the podium. Astonishing record. He's gone a whole year of finishing in the points effectively. Quite remarkable. And interestingly, behind him on the track, Montoya, Ralf Schumacher, Barrichello, that is the battle for 2nd place in the World Championship. And Montoya has put a little bit of a space between himself and Rubens Barrichello. Barrichello suffering refueling rig problems, and that dropped him down from 3rd to 4th place. Montoya now is clearly in 2nd place on 40 points. Ralf Schumacher 38, Rubens Barrichello 35, and David Coulthard struggling for pace today in 32.
Michael Schumacher, first time in a Ferrari, wins his home Grand Prix. Hard to believe that. The last time he won it, he was driving a Benetton.
Absolutely, Daz, and he's now equalled his own and Nigel Mansell's record for the most amount of Grand Prix in one season, which is 9, and we have 5 to go, so you can rest assured that that is going to be beaten yet again.
Stand by for the anthems.
But I'm very much mistaken. I thought Ralf looked to be higher than Montoya on that podium.
Massive amount of attrition. Mark Webber, we don't know what happened there. He just drove into the pits, obviously a mechanical failure.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame because the way they were dropping out, he could have maybe scored another point.
Exactly.
I love that Italian national anthem.
It's
a
fantastic.
beauty.
The two Williams drivers would have to be pretty happy coming in the way they have. I mean, they've had a mixed bag, haven't they, right throughout the race?
Well, Schumacher won't be all that hammy, Ralph, because, I mean, he was a dead set second. And what a fantastic thing that would have been, the two Schumacher brothers, first and second, in the German Grand Prix. Good for Montoya. He now increases his lead over Barrichello for second position in the championship. So, you know, let's hope that that'll generate a bit of interest in the forthcoming Grand Prix.
Gee, McLaren have had a bad day, haven't they?
Oh, Barry Shocker. I mean, it's just dreadful. You know, and Jordan looked like, you know, they were going to have their best race for a long, long time, and they faded away, as did Renault. It was a race of enormous attrition. But I think the circuit's good. I think it's certainly in the midfield there was a lot of cars having a really good day. So, you know, I think it's a circuit that's going to produce some very good racing in the future.
And that's what they set out to achieve. They wanted more people and closer racing.
Well, that's right. I mean, they can see 50% more of the circuit now. I mean, I used to love the way the cars screamed out into the forest, and there was that air of expectation where you couldn't see them for a little while, and then they'd sort of bang back onto the scene into the stadium, which in itself was very atmospheric. But I guess if you're paying sort of 3 trillion Deutschmark to go and watch the German Grand Prix, you'd like to be able to see the cars a bit more than what you did in the old circuit.
Well, they were saying off the top of the show that they only used to see them 45 times. Now it's almost double that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can certainly, 50% more time apparently you can see the cars. And, you know, whilst I'm not an advocate of these modern circuits and chicanes and doing away with the good fast corners, I think that he has done a good job on the circuit, altering it.
There we go, the two brothers together. Fantastic. I mean, how popular will those two blokes be in Germany tonight?
I wouldn't have to pay for too many meals, that's for sure.
Massive crowd too, and there we are. We'll recap the results for you.
Michael Schumacher from Montoya, his brother in third place, Barrichello in fourth, David Coulthard fifth, and Nick Heidfeld for Sauber in sixth.